This is the Ink, Pray, Love podcast. We talk all things health, wealth, and community connection. Let's go. Welcome to this episode of the Ink, Pray, Love podcast. Today we have an amazing human, a real treat for you, my homie Garrain Jones. This guy is a multiple seven-figure business owner, master coach. He's had a crazy life. He was a model. He was in jail. He got out of jail by a divine miracle, which is a crazy story. He was in the Jumpin' Jumpin' music video as Beyonce's love interest. What? This guy, when I first met him, it was at Leaders Create Leaders, and I went down there to go see Gerard Adams, and I didn't even know Garrain Jones was a facilitator there. We never met. And when I saw him, I was just like, yo, I want to be friends with this guy. I just saw him from across the room, and he had this like martial arts master, like African god vibe energy. And I was just like, yo, I need to be friends with this guy. And I went and said hi to him. And he's just his energy really lit up the room. And when he facilitated, I was just struck by him. Right away, I was tuned. It was the most important part of that whole retreat was when I got to meet Garrain, when I was like, oh my God, I fell in love with you right away, my friend. Thank you so much for being on this podcast. It means so much to me.
Brother, thank you so much as well for being brave enough to create a platform for stories and beings like mine to have wings. So I really appreciate that. And my name is Garrain Jones, and I am a powerful force of love and freedom, inspiring bigness within myself and the world. And that's how I typically introduce myself.
Did I just mess up your name the whole time? I was getting nervous. I'm so sorry. I know your name, and I was just a little bit nervous getting you on.
How do you just...
Oops. Okay. So I want to get through real quick. I know you tell your story on so many podcasts, but just a glance over it, because I want to really get into how you light up the room, your energy. I feel like that's a super value, a super skill for everyone to know. How do you tune yourself and come correct like you do?
Yeah, I mean, briefly, I'll go over my story. I'm almost 44 years young, and I went through the majority of my life feeling unworthy of love, not knowing how to love, didn't feel comfortable in my own skin, and felt like I was imprisoned inside of my own body. And, in a desperate measure to try to become the man that my first daughter, Kylia, would trust again, I started doing emotional intelligence courses so that I could learn more about myself. Like, I was like, I'm trying everything, but I just don't know why my daughter doesn't trust me. So I was doing like 10 days silent retreat, 5 days in the dark. I was taking emotional intelligence courses and master's spiritual psychology, like so many different things. And ultimately, the driver of that was, I want to learn why, like, I'm turning my daughter off, and it just wouldn't happen. And then one day, I went from strong to everybody else in the world, but I was weak inside of a relationship with my daughter. And then one day I claimed who I was. I am the most powerful representation of who my daughter will marry one day. And just by claiming that, I had no physical representation of somebody who modeled that as a man in my life, but just by claiming who I was thinking different, I was speaking different, I was acting different. My daughter was like saying, Daddy, you're different. All of this was happening as I was transforming my life, but I didn't realize that deep why of learning how to be trusted, trusting myself, loving myself would be the driver that got me from living in my car for 2.5 years, being $250,000 in debt, ex-convict, to then discovering new community, learning more about myself, reading, loving myself, forgiving the 2 men who murdered my father, forgiving people in my life who touched me as a little boy, letting go of resentment, to evolving and becoming the kind of person that is loving, that trusts himself deeply, that then his daughter started trusting, that then when I became the kind of person that felt safe around all women and that could represent women in a way that they should be represented out in humanity and in the world instead of being stuffed down and devalued, that's when I met my wife. And then my life has further evolved from who I was into the man, the king, the chief that I am now. And through all of that came all of the philosophies and lessons that taught me about business, about spirituality, about self-love, about being with people, about leadership, which garnered a best-selling book, retired my mom, had, creating and building 2 7-figure businesses and supporting other people with doing the same. And there was all these basic principles of becoming myself. In the art of becoming myself, I filled up my own cup, and in filling up my own cup, I learned that people got to benefit from my overflow. The overflow is the magnetism that people experience when I walk into any room. I don't need to prove of myself. I don't need anybody else's approval because I verified myself by choosing me, reclaiming me, and standing in my power. And that's what people are experiencing, the magnetism of the overflow of myself. Giving back to me.
I love it. I love it. I love you verified yourself. You gave yourself your own blue tick, not like how everyone else is doing it these days. That was like an inner blue tick. And the overflow part, I really love that. So fill your own cup first. What was the process of filling your own cup from going from an empty cup in prison to then learning how to control the world around?
But I found out what I used to love to do as a little kid that just brought me the most joy, that brought me the most happiness. For me, it was visual arts. It was swimming, running, cycling, dancing, just spontaneous. It's not like let's make the business out of this. I wasn't trying to make a business. I was trying to make a life out of my own life inside of my body. So as I started doing everything that I loved, that brought me the most joy, I experienced a sense of freedom that you can't fight for, and nobody can give to you and nobody can take from you. And that was the power to possess your own mind and use it in a way that embodies the frequency of freedom. And by me just tending to the grid of my inner child, that in itself tapped into the deepest reaches of my heart. The heart is the most powerful frequency in the world. So when you utilize it, it has the ability to, it's almost like create this spiritual highway that you can walk on where you know who you are, why you are, where you are going, because what is leading and guiding you is a reflection of what's in your heart. And they say God is love, love is God. So when you tap into your heart, you're tapping into the power of the source, the power of the creator. So when the creator creates and uses everything that's already inside of it, that is your truest essence. That is your true expression. That is your sacred note. That is your universal song. And just by me simply doing what makes me happy, my heart is happy, and my heart says, now let me show you what I can do.
I love that. That's so powerful. And that was part of my big transformation as well. It was learning how to love and show love again. Like, because I couldn't. I grew up hard. That wasn't what you do. You'd get beat up for it, And now it's like we're so much stronger as men when we're comfortable with our hearts. And that's what I felt from you. It was just like this, the chief, for sure, the chief. Like, chief, martial arts master, like I felt that when I was around you, and that you had a huge heart. Your heart was in the strong frequency, you know? I felt that from you. Aubrey, when I was around Aubrey Marcus, he had that same like king energy, but love king. And I was like, oh, king of hearts. I love that. That's how I want to lead. I was so inspired by both you and that energy that it opened me up to an even deeper frequency of love and how to be a real man. And that, I really thank you for that. That was powerful. I think I left the listeners on a mad cliffhanger who haven't like heard of you or like through my homies, maybe not. A lot of people have. And they're like, yo, what did he do? Why was he in prison? They're like, what? We just mentioned that. Do you mind just quickly glancing over that?
Yeah. So, who I am now is, as far as energetically, is who I've always been. I just didn't know about the power of energy transmutation and how you can take that same energy and alchemize it into a specific different direction. So when I used to break into cars all the time and break into homes and like sleep with a different woman, try to almost every single night, it was the same energy. And there was a time in my life where I put money over everything. It was literally my greed for money shielded me and blinded me from everything that was outside of money, people, my daughter, my family. And so during that time when I was blinded by a piece of paper with perceived value called money, I took an opportunity to drive a vehicle from one country over a ferry into another country and I was in Rotterdam. I went from the UK over the ferry to Rotterdam, and I knew what I was doing was bad, but I'd never asked what it was. It's just drive a car from here to here, and you'll get 4,000 pounds. Now, in 2002, 1 pound equaled 2.3 US dollars. So just imagine, I've never seen that kind of money quickly, because I was doing modeling and stuff front facing, but it took me 6 months to get a check. So to get money in one day, $9,000 for driving for, half a day, I never saw that. It was like the original Bitcoin. I'm going to take a risk and then like that. So I did that route, knew that I was doing something bad, didn't know exactly what it was. I did that route 7 times in 2.5 months. So I'd fly in the country, drive the car over the border, over the ferry, boom. Then on the 8th time, when greed proceeds, it just blinds you, even from potential circumstances. And so I was greedy for money, and I said, I just got to do it one more time. Just one more time. Just one more time. That one more time, flew into France. Everything about it felt wrong. Got to the border going into the UK. They stopped me for the first time. They'd never stopped me before. They were like, "What are you here for?" And I'd used the cover of a modeling magazine that I was doing, and I'd say, "I'm here for an audition." They were like, "Oh man, that's really awesome." This time, they said, "Well, we need to x-ray what's in your car." They made me open up the car. There were Congo drums. I had no idea what was in the Congo drums. They x-rayed the Congo drums, saw these little shaded bricks in the Congo drums. As soon as they saw that, they put handcuffs on me, opened up the Congo drums. When they pulled out these little yellow bricks, I knew my life was over. I just had a newborn. I just had a daughter. I was at the height of my modeling career. And it was the first moment during the 8 times while I was doing those routes that I thought about, what the fuck was I doing? What? I finally thought about what the circumstances were. And it ended up being 6.2 kilos of heroin. I am the most anti-drug person you will ever meet. Never had a sip of alcohol in my life. So front-facing, everybody in the world knew that I was this innocent, harmful little kid. And then all of a sudden, I'm getting busted for smuggling drugs in another country, 6.2 kilos of heroin. So,
oh man,
yeah, I ended up doing, they sentenced me to 12 years, and I ended up getting out in 2.5 years.
Yeah, this is the big part, because I'd be like, what'd you do? How did you get out? This is the part I love about your story, because it ties into learning to fill your cup in the worst possible situation.
Yeah.
You're in a foreign prison. Nobody, you don't even know the language. You don't speak French. And then tell them what happens next.
So I'm in prison. So in America, you get your one phone call the first day. Well, in the French prison, until you don't get your one phone call until you're judged. They were investigating my case for an entire year. So I didn't get my first phone call till after 1 year. So there was a lot of, yeah, people thought I died. The only reason why my mom knew, because the consulate came in, they notified her. My letters, because I was in there for drugs, they weren't getting to America because they had to encrypt every single word that I was saying. It took 2 months to get there, 2 months to come back. People were getting letters every week. It took 2 months for mine to come, 2 months to go back. So I'm in there not thinking I'm going to get out. I'm reading a book called The Power of Positive Thinking. And then all of a sudden, we're allowed to watch movies once a month. And so we were watching Shawshank Redemption, which is a movie that's based out, that's based out of a prison.
How to Break Out of Prison. You guys are watching the How to Break Out of Prison movie in prison.
Yeah. And Anthony Dufresne, Tim Robbins had said they can take anything they want away from it, but they can't take away my mind. And it was something about those phrases that had me, it was like, stop me in my tracks. I'm like, well, I know why I'm in prison. Because when I was free, I used to say, I feel like I'm in prison inside of my own body. And I said, well, if I can think myself in prison, well, in that case, I'm a free man. What would a free man do? And a voice inside said, everything that you used to love to do when you were a kid that made you the happiest. And interesting, we started this conversation about when I was telling you about walking into a room and being filled off of your own self and people benefiting from your overflow and doing what you loved as a child so you can embody magnetism. Well, you can't see the picture while you're in the frame. So while I was in the frame of the prison, I remembered that I loved art, that I loved motivating people, that I loved singing, that I loved running. So every day I started singing again. An inmate goes, every time you sing, it makes me feel free. I was already unconsciously free because I was doing what I used to love to do. Same thing with the art. Same thing with motivation. And then a little voice inside says, Garrain, run. You love to run. Well, I started running. 30 days, 60-something inmates were running with me. And there were less fights, less drug deals, less people stabbing each other. And it seemed like I was more calm, more peaceful, regardless of my circumstances. I just felt free. Now, how I got out? Interesting. When I felt the most free, they called me into the office. They had already tested the drugs 3 times, 6.2 kilos of heroin. But when I felt free, they called me into the office again, and they said, Jones, we retested the drugs, which they had no reason to retest the drugs. And 90% was fake. And for the amount that was real, you've already done the time. You're free to go home. And then I got out.
Wow. That's incredible. I love that story so much because of the inner game change to produce outer world results and filling your own cup. And you're having like half the prison block running, like everybody started jogging. You started a jogging club in prison in France. You learned to speak fluent French, like incredible to take a situation like that. And what came out of it is mastery and mastery of your situation internally first to produce those external results. And then all of this happened, all these amazing things, speaking in front of, 70,000 people, all, huge amounts, maybe more. I remember you telling me the stories of this, and just like, that is such a beautiful and inspirational, story, because you went like, how many other people in prison just go to drugs? It's all you ought us to do. Luckily, you're not that kind of guy. Or they go into gangs, or it can devolve you so much worse. And I read the Power of Positive Thinking after that. I did so much stuff that you'd like, oh, you should try this. I was like, write it down. Yes, of course, absolutely, 100%. Even the iPhone 1 to iPhone 14 way of thinking, I absolutely loved that. Then we can drop into that in a second. But when you got out and you had this new frame of mind, how did the world respond to you when you just got back into America and now you learned how to fill your cup?
Well, funny, because everything that I'm sharing with you is as I connect the dots looking backwards. I didn't know that that's the reason why I got out at that time. I was just like, wow, I'm lucky. It was the wow, I'm not realizing what I was doing is what was creating the outer world's results. So when I got out, I was riding off of the momentum of what I created while I was inside. So when that well ran out, I'm like, why is it not there anymore? So I didn't realize you got to keep doing the rituals, keep reading the book, keep doing the stuff that you love. So after a while, and people are like, oh my God, you're amazing. And I'm like, yes, I'm amazing. You're right. I am the shit. You're right. So my ego, my ego got in the way, my pride. And I didn't know that it was my pride that's like throwing pesticides on your dreams and on your future. I had no idea. You can't change what you're not aware of. So just as fast as it rose, just as fast as I lost it. And even though I did get a record deal 2 months after I got out, I got a record deal with the songs that I wrote while I was in prison. I got a record deal with Ludacris at DTP Def Jam. I'm in the studio with 2 Chainz and writing songs with and for Chingy and myself, and doing music videos with Bobby Valentino and on MTV, on BET. And this is when the momentum was happening. And when I was like, oh yeah, I'm the shit and I'm the best and da-da-da, I'm the next to blow and nobody's better than me and all this other stuff, and my ego got in the way, well, I got a reality check really fast. And I got dropped from Def Jam, but I still was on DTP. And then I ended up leaving Disturbing the Peace, and people in music were taking my ideas and getting credit for it. And I was getting credit for songs that I had written on, and I wrote #1 songs that I didn't get credit for. And while I was living in my car, and it just, because money wasn't coming in, well, all I have left is my car. So it felt like me living in my car was another version of prison, or another version of stripping things that I gave power to away from me long enough for me to sit still and remember that the power doesn't belong out there, that the power belongs in here. So everything that was being taken away from me was because I gave my power away. So the universal order aligned me with stillness yet again, for me to remember that I get to do the things that I love for me, through me, from me. Do the things that I love and share from that place. And then my life opened up again.
I love this. So that's how you took your power back. And I really love that point about it, because I kind of went through a similar thing around Corona time, and it just like floored me in that. And then I called in a bad motorcycle accident. I know that happened for a reason. That was the universe just slapping me right there. And it was like, oh, you think you're the shit? Here, you're handicapped for a year. It's like, and then it's okay, I get it. I get these big life slaps come around because we're working from pride and ego rather than taking our power back and living from heart. And I really sensed that with you was power, but like heart power, not this like, Game of Thrones kind of power. It was like really power.
Well, that's
and I've really,
that's an unhealthy, suppressed power. Like,
yeah,
true openness, vulnerability, knowing of self, knowing who you are, clear on the direction, and capable of danger and harnessing a sweet, innocent baby, and you can turn that switch on and off, that level of range, that's power.
Yeah, I love that. And the thing with that power also is you're so soulful in the way that like you use your voice, and it instantly gets people in the zone when you started with that, the singing. And that's like an edge for me. I think I'm a bad singer. I'm not a good dancer. I'm like, I feel awkward, in that range. And so I know that's something I need to maybe go to your Artistry Mastery course you got going on. But like,
I don't know what you're doing May 18th through the 22nd, but my next retreat, Awaken the Artist Within, is here in Austin.
Yeah. Amazing. I'd love that. Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes for everybody else as well if they're aligned to that. But yeah, absolutely. I'm really wanting to move into art myself, because I realize that's a big expression of what's in my heart. But that's an edge, I think, for a lot of people. And where do you see the correlation with not being able to express yourself in certain areas and your magnetism?
Well, I'll tell you this. You have art all over your body, so clearly you're a walking expression. I think that people separate themselves, or they unconsciously separate themselves from the artist. And there was a mom. They're like, oh, I don't know if I can come to your retreat because I'm not much of an artist. I'm like, you mean the lady who created a baby? Where do you think the word creation came from? I was like, do you dress your kids? She's like, yeah. I was like, are they matching? Yeah. I was like, who's the one? What part of you is the one that matched the clothes? I was like, do you prepare food? Okay. How do you put the apples on the plate? And she's like, oh my God, I'm an artist. I'm like, yeah, we all are. The creator creates. And when you tap into the creator in you, you benefit from creator power. And so the artist is the little kid before life stripped away your powers, your resilience, your bigness, your bravery, your courage, your love, your creativity. I teach people how to safely tap back into that energy. It unleashes a power. That's what I call artist power. That's the name of my company. So when you are filled up with that power, it ultimately turns into magnetism, or the outward expression of the magical inner world that you allow yourself to fill you up.
Powerful. I really like what you said about like we tap back into the child in us that has all these amazing qualities before we got our power taken away. Can you expand on that, please?
Well, think about this. I want you to just imagine a little dog. And then the little dog keeps getting in the neighbor's yard and taking a shit in the neighbor's yard. And then the neighbor says, I'm going to call the puppy pound on your dog if you don't keep a leash on the dog. And so the owner puts this shock collar on the dog's neck. And so innocently, the dog is going the same route that it always does. And then it goes to the little invisible fence, but it's going to shock them. Boom, fear, pain. So it's shocking fear, pain into the dog's nervous system. Then it goes again, bam, fear, pain. Bam, fear, pain. That's the shock. Bam, fear, pain. After 1 month, the owner takes the shock collar off the dog. But because the nervous system is already domesticated with fear and pain, that dog automatically in its motor neurons is going to think fear, pain every time I take a risk. So what does the dog do? Stay inside of the invisible wall of fear and pain that no longer exists for the rest of its life. Now, you can see how that would do to a dog. Take the dog out and then put in a human. We as humans are domesticated by fear and pain through society, the news, through music, through our culture. Fear and pain, fear and pain. And anyone who is domesticated in fear and pain can be controlled by fear and pain. That's why when you look on the news and then you see fear and pain, fear and pain, fear and pain, fear and pain, watch what happens to us as a humanity. Oh my God. And then all of a sudden we vote from the emotion of fear and pain. We eat food from fear and pain. We date from fear and pain. All of that. We look at pornography from fear and pain. We get jobs from fear and pain. That remote control that was bestowed upon humanity is why we are, as a society at whole, today. And I feel that it was intentional. So when you break free from the matrix that was domesticated on you, you realize that you had the key to unlock your freedom the entire time.
Wow. Yeah. Super powerful. I love that. I was living in Bali for like 7 years and I just moved back to the West, right? And I felt like I wasn't really connected to like the matrix and how this is all it all is unless I watched the news. And I just saw the creative energy in me really expand. And I was like, okay, I am a creator in my own way. I love to build businesses. I love to create connection. Like this is my jam. And when I was in Vancouver, now I'm back here full circle. But I was not at all in that frame of mind. I didn't think that. It was just money, money, money. So I know exactly what you mean. That's what really ruled my life. And that really put a damper on my creative abilities. But I was making money out of fear and pain. I totally get it now because I grew up bullied, chubby kid. And that was fear and pain. And I knew money was my answer to get out of fear and pain. That was it. Money, power, respect. That was it for me. And now seeing to be creating from a place, like you just clicked it in my head for me. It was amazing to see that actually now I'm creating from a place of actually like love and creation. I just love to create things now. That's just what I like doing. It's so fun to be in that space. And that's my dharma, is to create connections and to help people and to serve. Like this is such a better space to live from. And that's how I see, like, I always tell people, like when I was like a 20-year-old, I'd go out and me and my buddies would get into scraps. Like we were just like, 18, 19 scrappy little hood rats. And then now I'm like, every day I go out, I make a friend. I love to make friends. Like I'm just like, I enjoy that connection ability. And I see the switch there. It's because I'm working from a place of creation and love. I have friends everywhere I go. And I assume you're the same way. I bet you everybody who sits beside you on an airplane is like, after the end of it, probably coming to one of your retreats or something. Tell me how that switch went for you, or how we can actually let other people know to do it, say in like a practical step of how do you become magnetic? How do you light up the room? How do you make people want to be around you instantly?
Well, one, you've got to first care about people. You can't like, well, I just, yes. You can't just be.
Step one.
A lot of time people want people to like them and they're like seeking approval. But I think that if you approve of yourself, verify yourself, and see the value inside of yourself, I am worthy of love. I am worthy of loving. I'm worthy of being loved. And you get the grounding inside of yourself. That's the rod that people want. You literally magnetize people to you because most people don't have that. So you can't be what you can't see. So by you seeing it or by someone else seeing it, then you're probably speaking to the voiceless part of them, or the part of them that they haven't yet given a voice, because you know your own voice. You're your universal signature. You're your universal sound. So by you knowing yourself, loving yourself, honoring yourself, respecting yourself, being loyal and true to yourself, you become the kind of person that people either are threatened by or they want to be around. Both of them can coexist, because by me being my true self, oftentimes people, and a lot of times people that are even more successful than I am monetarily, they're like, man, when I first met you, I was threatened by you. And I always ask why. It was like, because you're being yourself and there's a part of me that's not myself. So when I saw it, it almost like it activated the protective part of me, that I knew that you'd be able to see who I really am because you were the real thing. And, this is how I really connect. I know who's coming into my life because I'm not bringing fake to other people. I'm actually bringing the real thing. So if you stay in my life and I'm really me, I know you're actually meant to really be in my life. Most people are living as masks of themselves, or overcompensating, or, just like the undervalued version of themselves. They're like, oh my God, he left me or she left me. But they left the fake version. The real you, when the truth shows up and nobody is around, and who you look at and who you see in the mirror, they left that person because they never got to experience that person. So when you bring that person forth and you work through whatever it is that you need to work through, and you become that person, then whoever goes and whoever stays, it's a real thing.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. I love that. That really reminded me also of a thing that you said that really struck me. I think when we were driving in Tulum, and you're like, you needed a ride somewhere, I'm like, I'm fucking driving you, bro. I'll take you anywhere. I'll take you to Austin if you want. I just want to hang out. And it was like, you mentioned this part about trusting yourself and having trust with yourself, because a lot of people don't trust themselves. So in order to actually succeed, there needs to be a deep trust in you. I'd love for people to get that wisdom that you dropped on me. That was gold.
I will tell you, I want to thank my mom. My mom, I went through a portion of my life being mad at her for forcing me at 4 years old to choose which parent I want to go with as my parents were separating. Like, what kind of parent would make a 4-year-old choose? And I blamed her for that. And then I realized that I can look at this perspective in a completely different way than the one I've been harboring in the resentment of my soul. And I was like, in my mom's highest light, if she, in her highest light, in her spirit body, took 100% responsibility, came through the shell of her at that age telling me, pick who you want to go with, me or your dad. We have 30 minutes to get ready. Why would she make me choose? It's because she trusted that I could decide. Well, guess what? I was deathly afraid. I dreaded that feeling. And I still chose. I chose to go with my dad. And then as my brother had chose to go with my mom, something that I now know as my intuition, my earliest memory of my intuition was when I was 4. You don't know any kids, really, that can remember their earliest memory of intuition being 4. So my earliest memory of intuition is when I was 4, because there was something that was in my body that was hot that says, stop the car. I was in the car driving away with my dad. Stop the car. Go with your mom. Go with your mom. Go with your mom. And I said, stop. I want to go with mom. I want to go with my mom. My dad stops the car, drives back. I go with my mom. not realizing that 8 years later that my father would be murdered because he lived in one of the roughest neighborhoods in Houston, Texas. Well, it's interesting that having this new perspective on my mom, instead of her forcing me, you know what she did? My mom gave me the power to choose my own destiny. So instead of me saying, oh, she forced me, my mom gave me the power to choose my own destiny. Interesting that 10 minutes later, after I trusted my decision, deep trust, my earliest memory of intuition was 10 minutes after I trusted. You know what I learned about intuition? You do not get access to deep intuition if you do not have deep trust. So when most people leave the house when they're 18 and they have to make that decision, I made the decision when I was 4. So what people do when they're an adult, I did when I was 4. So ultimately, what my mom says is, you're ready to become a man now. So deep trust leads to deep intuition. And I'm known for my caliber of intuition, which is why what happens in the masterminds and in the retreats happens at a very magical level. It's because of my ability to deeply trust the divine and what wants to come through my channel as I access ancient and ancestral wisdom. And so this is what I teach. You learn how to deeply trust yourself beyond your human knowing, you will gain access to the universal knowing.
Wow. I love that. You don't get access to deep intuition unless you access deep trust within yourself.
Correct.
I love this. That's gold. That's gold. How would you explain universal knowing to everyone who's not totally like tapped in, to these phrases?
I have a phrase. It goes, those who know who knows. And the best way that I can describe it is, and everybody has experienced this one time or another, where you just say, I wonder whatever happened to Todd. And then he magically called you after 10 years of never hearing from you again. Everybody that's watching this has an experience of thinking something and then it happening. Now, it could be spontaneous for you, or you could have accessed something. Let's just say that there is a way to have access to that frequently. And that access comes from questions that you ask, from trusting what comes after you ask those questions, and being in a position to be able to receive the messages that come through. There's not a simple way. It's like that's trying to simply describe pre-calculus. But I will tell you this. There is a non-physical world and there's a physical world. Most humans operate from the physical world. You cannot see the non-physical world. However, you can see the effect of it. If you say every day, I hate myself, I hate myself, I hate myself, I'm ugly, I'm fat, I'm fat, I'm fat, you will be ugly, appear to be what you call fat, and you will have an unworthy life that is filled with unworthy things because of how you positioned yourself in the physical that now has the non-physical wrapping itself around you and saying, your wish is your command. You can use this in a negative way and you can use this in a positive way that actually works for your life. You can use yourself, you plant yourself into your own life in a positive, affirmational, grounded way, the universe becomes plastic and will wrap itself around you, and the outside becomes the physical manifestation of what's going on inside the brain that's connected to the heart.
Yeah, wow. Powerful. Clearly, when you did exactly that with changing your circumstances in prison and getting out, it's like case and point. It's so clear, right? I absolutely love that. And that's how kind of it was for me back in Vancouver, coming around full circle, leaving a drug-addicted drug dealer to come back. And then, like, I've launched 2 businesses since I've been back here now. It's been crazy just in 10 months, while learning how to walk again, because I was like, I'm going to come here and be a loving force of positivity. That's all I wanted to do. I was only going to be here for 2 weeks and just want to love up my family. I just want to show them how much I love them. And then all of this happened because I wasn't even thinking about coming back and like doing anything else. I'm just going to come back and love my family. And I was like, wow, that was the first time I ever thought of doing that also, because it was kind of like, with families, it's sticky. I know you know what I'm talking about. It's just sticky with who you grow up with sometimes. And it's just kind of like there's these weird roles that you're in, and you're kind of like, they see you as that person as you were. And I was like, I'm gonna break that mold and just be this guy. And I just want to be this guy now. And I know you said this on a few other podcasts, and you told me personally when you're saying, I just started doing things differently. I was like, okay, you used liquid soap, use bar soap. And I always thought of that too. It's like, okay, you take the stairs, take the elevator this time, or take the elevator, you take the stairs this time. And that just doing things differently. And that really stuck with me. And I think everybody would really love to hear a little bit on that, please.
Yeah. I have a phrase that's called change your mindset, change your life, which is the title of my book. And I was living in my car, and even how I came the phrase was, it was divine synchronicity. I was living in my car. It was August 2011, 3:43 in the morning. And I was actually living in my car for, a little bit over two years and 3 months. I typically say just like 2.5 years. I don't have to use extra words, but it was like 2 years and 3 months. And I was living in my car during that time. And finally, it seemed like things were so difficult in my life that I got tired of fighting. So finally, one day I was just like, okay, I'm tired of fighting. I don't want to fight anymore. I want to be healthy. I want to be happy. I want to be surrounded by nothing but positive people. I just want to inspire people. And I want to make a bunch of money, but I want the money to represent something that I passionately believe in, that I would do for free. Just show me a sign. And a week later, I'm at the gas station, and a homeless guy comes up to me and asks me for money. And I said, you have more money than me. And he said, change your mindset, change your life, and walks away. I was like, so my life is the way that it is because of how I'm thinking. So if I do different with the same circumstance, my life will change. So I just started doing the opposite of everything I would normally do in areas of my life where I wasn't happy. But I just practiced, and I would be somewhere where there was like an elevator, some stairs, and the escalator. I'd always take the escalator. Change your mindset, change your life. So I take the stairs. Use gel soap. Change your mindset, change your life. So I use bar soap. So I was unhealthy. Change your mindset, change your life. So I started practicing being healthy. Was hanging around a bunch of negative people. Change your mindset, change your life. I sought out positive people. Well, an object in motion stays in motion. So because my life, I just started doing the opposite. Well, when other bigger things came around, I'd already built the muscle on doing the opposite because I had so much momentum. Now, 13 years later, every single day I look for, I don't feel like doing this. Change your mindset, change your life. So I just do it. Now, 13 years later, my life is a direct flip from wanting to kill myself, ex-convict, living in my car, unhealthy, $200-something thousand in debt, to, multiple seven-figure businesses, a book that sold over 152,000 copies without any paid ads or major celebrities shouting me out, traveling to over 75 countries all over the world, speaking on stages, retiring my mom, being in a committed relationship, having two extraordinary daughters, and being an honorable, respective, loyal husband, and honoring women how they should actually be honored in our society. That is a direct flip from who I was. And everybody has the opportunity to do that. So you just might be living as you were domesticated as a child. And like I always say, you know, an adult is a deteriorated child. So what if you re-domesticated yourself, reparented yourself, and started doing the opposite of everything that you would normally do in areas of your life where you weren't happy? You're not happy with your father. Okay, cool. Do something about it. Not happy with your mother. Do something about it. Not happy with the job that you work at. Do something about it. And it's difficult to carry around an excuse-ridden life when I had every reason to have excuses, and then I did something about it and completely transformed my life and that of millions of people all over the world.
I really love that. That's massive, and it speaks to a lot of like what's been going on with me lately too. I'd like to know more about reparenting yourself. I feel like a lot of people could really benefit from that term.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, you're raised with your dad, you're raised with your mom, or whoever your caregivers were. Those were your original mentors, whether it's conscious or unconscious. So whatever, if they had bad money habits, then you ultimately grew up with whatever their habits were. If they were physical abuse, mental abuse, spiritual abuse, alcohol abuse, you ultimately grew up with that inside. So if you didn't get a chance to have your fair shot at life, well then as an adult, it's about creating new agreements with the alcohol. You might be carrying on the same physical abuse or a sex addict abuse or porn addict or cigarette or alcohol that your parents did. That means you're still living as a fragment of your parents and not even having a chance at your own, living your own life. So reparenting is, oh, I see my mom live like this and I'm doing the exact same thing. So how would I want to live that life if I were to get a shot to create it myself? And then going back and creating new agreements with how you would like to live your life that could be different than the way your parents raised you based off of how they lived their life. And that in itself is reparenting. So if you would want to be parented again, how would you parent yourself? With love, with affection, with eating healthy, with reading books and things like that. And that's creating a new agreement so that you're now parenting yourself to live from a different aspect in this next part of your life. And that will not only affect you, but it'll affect your unborn kids or the kids that you have right now. So they're not carrying on the tradition of insecurities or alcoholism, sexism, and all these different things. They get to carry on the tradition of you living as a recreation of your now new pathway.
Wow. It's super, super powerful. I really love that. And I feel like that all ties into like the filling your cup thing. When I asked you, like, how do you light up the room? When I met you, you lit that room up. You owned it. And from what I'm getting out of that, it's you got to fill your own cup first. Okay, reparent yourself. Change the way you think. Change your mind. Change your life. Embrace being a child again. Embrace creating again. And then from that overflow, you're going to be able to light up the room. That's your overflow. You can't light up the room unless you're full first. So really, really, really.
100%. And it's not what you're doing. It's who you're being.
Yeah. Not what you're doing. It's who you're being. That's gold. I love it. And what do you have any practices, to kind of cap things off? If you're going into a room with, you're speaking on stage, you're going into a room with people you don't know, you're walking into a situation where you could be feeling like, okay, I got to come correct. I'm nervous. I'm scared, whatever it is. For people listening, what do you do to prime yourself to connect?
Repetition. I shot TEDx 2 weeks ago. I rehearsed for every scenario. If I slipped up, if the mic turned off, my wife caught me naked. She caught me naked in the workout room in front of the red light therapy full body thing, literally with the goggle things on my face, rehearsing. She was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm on stage right now for the TEDx thing." So by the time I got on stage, I'd already worked out all the nerves. People don't have enough reps. Either you have 10,000 hours or you got 150,000 reps. Get your reps in. The more you get your reps in, it'll feel like when somebody asks you your name. Somebody says, "Hey, what's your name?" Then it will, Garrain. But why? Because you got your reps in. So fear and not being confident comes from you not having enough reps. So you being skilled comes from the way that you prepare. So you prepare for the room, prepare for your talk, prepare and don't wing it and make it last minute. Develop the instinctual behavior so that you're prepared for all the scenarios. And then when you plug yourself inside of in a room in front of anybody else, whatever, you've already, just like a fighter, and this being in martial arts, you don't just practice one thing. It's like you practice all the different reps. Now, when you get in the ring and you're fighting, you literally, the instinctual nature, I can see somebody who's about to punch long before the punch happens because I've got 150,000 reps of going and doing these things in martial arts as you do too. It's the same thing. It's get your reps in, build the instinctual behavior in. I do that in leadership. I do that in healing. I do that in the spiritual world. I do that in my masterminds. I just take the same martial arts behavior and I build those practices to build the instincts. So any room I walk into, I am 100% me, and I've already seen all of the different moves in my mind that I rehearsed and practiced. And then, boom, that's when me and nature and the universe just start having the dance with one another.
I love that.
And because you came up in martial arts, you already know what I'm talking
about. 100%. You got to get your reps in. You got to practice that one kick 10,000, 150,000 times, and then you know how to snap it out when you need to. And I think that's one way that I really love that. And then to kind of actually also let something in for the softer people that maybe haven't gone in and become a black belt, and they were on that other end. What I like to do is what I learned and I think you've done a few Vipassanas as well, is the practice of metta meditation taught by the Buddha, the practice of loving kindness. And that's something I like to pair because I got that hard martial arts edge, but I also need to soften my heart. It's a practice of softening, practice of softening. Everything goes better when I'm softening. So I'll practice metta meditation, which I've done in 10,000 hours, probably not yet, but a lot of hours of practicing that, 10 meditation retreats of Vipassana and learning how to harness the power of my heart and come into it. And now I can tap into that quite quickly because I know that metta feeling. And so when I go into a room and I'm feeling anything other than happy, I'll practice metta, and then I'll go into that room shining love and kindness. And it goes into that way of thinking for me of not what I can get out of this situation. I'm just a Wi-Fi router of love and positivity. And when I think that way, everything goes easier for me. I'm just here to love. And when I do that, it's so much easier. My nerves are calm. I'm not nervous. I don't feel weird. I'm just I'm just love, man. I'm just loving. That's it. And things go better when I'm in that state. So I practice that one because my ego can get ahead of me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
I'm glad you like it. Man, I had so much fun with you today. I'm really, 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 really happy that you came through and that we got to connect and jam and you got to drop your wisdom bombs on everybody. Please, again, let people know where to find you and what you got going on, because you got dope shit on coming out, please.
Yeah, you can find me at GarrainJones.com and also on Instagram, which is Garrain.Jones. And my company is called Artist Power, and I do some of the most powerful retreats in the world. They're called Awaken the Artist Within. The next one is May 18th through the 22nd. And so that's what we're focused on right now. It's like just creating these little hubs for healing and expression and revealing and reviving and thriving and creating powerful communities. So that's what I'm like focused on right now. And along with that, just being an extraordinary father. So.
Well, you're killing that. Your daughter's so beautiful. I remember her running around in the retreat that we went to. So cute, bro. You're doing a great job. You're an absolute inspiration to me. I appreciate you, my bro. We are allies for life. I can't wait to see you in person again.
Yes, brother. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll see you on the next episode. Peace.
All right.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Ink, Pray, Love podcast. I hope you found it inspiring, entertaining, funny, and also feeling a little bit more present and connected to yourself. Please leave a review and like and subscribe and do all those things. I'd really appreciate that. As well as if you're feeling in a giving mood, this podcast is there for the charities that I love to support. Go to www.arenbaya.com/charity and get some of those good karma points. This podcast is brought to you by LightHouse Studios in Bali, as well as Full Reset Coaching. That is my coaching practice. And if you're looking for help in business, inner game impact, and building your legacy to be something you're proud of, your brand, your business, and how you walk the earth and who you impact, and also having the mindset and the heart set to be able to be happy handling it all, I'm here for you. Just DM me. Let's go. Peace out, homies. I'll see you on the next episode.